Hello guys, and welcome to another little Waves on Crypto. Stavros Tousios here as always, and we are back for another one. Today we're going to see BTC as always and Ethereum as voted from the QIC community. It's been nearly 10 days since the last video. We're going according to plan, and we're going to see whether we are going to keep hitting the target. Well, until the next video, which is probably going to come in a week or 10 days from now, who knows, depending on what we're going to see. We had the FTX drama. There is a lot of sort of bearish sentiment piling in, and we are at kind of in the last leg to the downside, according to my count anyway. We're going to have, of course, different variations for, I would say, mainly for BTC. Ethereum is kind of very similar. The short term is a bit different, but we're going to explore that. And just as a reminder, guys, I know that a lot of you have been troubled with the recent FTX debacle. I'm very sorry. It's something that no one expected, and no one has actually warned, or you would be lucky if you had heard of warning. It's unfortunate, but this industry is going to get back up at some point. It might take a while, but in my opinion, it's not something that is just going to go away. We're talking about technology. We had the bubble burst, and it's going to come back at some point. Now, if you had been in my group for a while ago, or from a while ago, regardless of what's happening with the FTX now, you would have at least been able to kind of follow the market a little bit better. I mean, if you just watch the YouTube videos, guys, and if you're just an investor or you don't really trade on a daily basis, still the YouTube videos are very supportive, and they have been kind of revealing, I would say, as well as helpful for a lot of people, whether you are on the Discord paid group or not. The details of the Discord, by the way, are in the caption. You feel free to join. BTC and Ethereum, let's see what there is there in store for us. Okay guys, before we go into the short-term stuff, I wanted to take you back to the Brave Coin index, because we haven't looked at it for a while. Okay, now my count, as you will remember, is for Super Cycle 3 done. We're looking for fifth wave done as A, then we get B, and then we're going to get wave C. That will be wave 4, and from there we're going to shoot back up. Okay, now if we pull the Fibonacci time from the first move to the downside all the way to where the wave 3 and 4 are, we get kind of a potential important level around the December 2nd. So that's like in a couple of weeks from now. Okay, and if we look at the short term, we're going to come to that. If we look at the short term expectations for my count as well, it looks like this might coincide with a potential bottom, at least for the short, or maybe I would say medium term. Okay, unless if an alternative happens, which is going to be much faster, and I will take you to that alternative. Now, guys, there is one thing to mention here. You see the base channel. This is the one that you see pretty much a bit slopey, not too accelerated. We've re-entered that channel over here. We came and retested that level, and we did call that short as well, I remember, and we are falling down. Now, usually when this happens, the next level to reach is the median line, and if we do lose that as well, then we're going to go probably all the way down to the base channel, perhaps even lower, who knows. I'm not calling for these levels, I'm just telling you how the base channel works. Okay, I am personally more interested in if that's the 2, hold on, let me just ensure that I'm doing this the right way. No, I would even prefer to go down here. Well, actually, I don't want to go down there. This is way too much. Well, look, like 6300s is an important level. 1300s is, well, that's 62, yeah, and 13, which is where the first wave is, according to my count. Do I think we're gonna go to the fourth? I think it's possible. What we usually see, guys, when we are looking at Elliott waves, we are looking at the previous wave 4 meeting the wave C. So you see that over here. This is currently the expectation for, you know, if we see something like this, for example, you will be going down here, we'll have a double correction, not double correction, well, ideally it would be the double 4, the double 2, but it's not here, it's the mix. Actually, no, it's the 4 and the 4. Sorry, yeah, because the fourth one would be expected to go there. Now, that is not necessarily the case. We don't need to get back there, you know, but we could finish actually anywhere between just below the 80%, I would say. Okay, so that still brings us below the 6K. Can you imagine that? But also, if that happened, we're going to break below that level. So I think, in my opinion, if we do the ABC here that I'm expecting, okay, the only reason I would see the channel to break would be for the false break. So which means I don't expect that we're going to go below 7K, at least for a long period of time, not more than 3 days, perhaps no more than 3 weeks if we stay below that level, and if we do go below that level. Now, where are we on that from that perspective? Look, we've got also the fourth wave here to take into account. Usually we look at 38, 50, 61, 62, and you know the 79. So if we do kind of see one more wave to the downside here, that might be possible, or even lower, who knows, for wave A, then possibly to see a correction up to 21, perhaps even up to 33, who knows, and then do another leg to the downside close to the 6K, which actually happens to be near the 79%. Now, I'm not saying we're going there, but I'm telling you that if this is a wave A, guys, if this is just the first wave, then it will be very likely we're going to see a correction, perhaps maybe stop up to around 28 before we continue to go lower, right? And the 10K is going to be like not just, it's actually very near as we speak as well, you know, the 10K. The other thing I wanted to say is that in the medium term, if you look at the channel that comes to the downside, we've had the 1 and the 2, the 3 and the 4, and it looks like we've just actually stopped over here with a new low. So you might say, isn't this make a fifth wave? Actually, it does make a fifth wave, technically speaking, but this is what doesn't. Okay? Because this is very hard, a 5-wave move to the downside. Okay? This is something more possible. Okay, and then we'll go up for B and C. So that's on the long-term stuff. We have received the rejection here. It doesn't mean we cannot go lower, and it doesn't actually mean that we're going to see a bounce either, as we are here. Maybe we're going to come to around December 6th, and we're going to see a rejection at the channel / Fibo cluster. Okay, now let's return to the more interesting stuff. And I'll try to be quick, and I always say that and I always fail. So main scenario 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and I can go to the daily actually. Yeah, and we are, as we said, as 1 and 2. And supposedly that has to be 1 and 2. Then we get 3, 4, and 5 for 3, then 4 and 5. You might ask why? Is this the only case? No, it's not the only case. But before we go to the next, let's just look at some levels. So first of all, we'll look at the 50 in the longer term. Now look at this. Although we are assuming our wave 3 is done at 138, we also, well, yes, well, the next level to take into account is the 1450. Okay, and the 1450 comes, okay, let's just, what was it? Hold on. Let's not get this confused. No, BLX. Oh, that's not BLX. Hello. There we go. Look, so 1466 is the 50 Fibonacci. You see that? 1456, and then you go down to around 10K. So look at this. 1452. I mean, it's the same level pretty much if we adjust a little bit the Fibonacci. So that is a cluster, guys. So 1450 or so. It's a very important level. Okay, one thing to remember. Then below that, we'll go closer to the 11K. Another thing we can do, of course, if this is a case of the third wave having been finished, completed, and this is the fourth, we need to look at 38, which is pretty much a done case at 15, and then we go down to around 1285 or so, and then down to 11 again. So 15, 14, 50, 11K, 10K are levels that we have to keep in mind, and also around 13K in the interim. Okay. Now on a different note, if this is 1 and this is 2, we need to look at the 13K again, because it's where potentially wave 3 can end, and then they're around 1150 because it's potentially where wave 5 can end. Okay, and then we go up from there. Now, that assumes, of course, this is going to be something like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and then we're going to get the 4 and then the 5. And by the looks of it, and because of the move that we have done down here, we seem to be in wave 1 here still, 1 of 3. Okay, so we have to see how this is going to pan out. I will go to the short term soon. Before I do, look at this. I want to show you a variation of the fifth. I don't like it, but what we are actually doing here is we're looking at this as 1 and 2 still, but instead of looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for 3, we'll look at this as 3 straight away. And this is an A, B, C, D, E. That's the fourth wave, and we actually even did the fifth. And we can assume just we're going to head higher from here. But what do you not like here? It's the same thing I don't like. Look at the wave 1. Look at the wave 2. Can this be a wave 3? And can this be a wave 4? If compare this, proportionally speaking, you don't see any similarities. Okay, so that has to be of a lower degree move. Otherwise, it just doesn't make much sense. But it's there because it doesn't need to make sense when we're talking about crypto. The other thing, and pay attention to this because some of the people, well, some of the people that don't know think it's a triangle, but it's actually in Elliott wave terms not a triangle because of these discrepancies over here. But if you put in a triangle within the triangle, then it works. Let me show you. And that is a triangle case. Okay, now let me tell you what is going on here. We've got an A, B, C, D, and E. You see, here's my B, and my D is above B, which means this is a valid descending triangle because the top line is falling, the down line is horizontal, B and D. D cannot be below D. So I've seen people doing D here, and you see this is invalidation. This is a breaking of the rule. However, if we consider wave D as a triangle, which means A, B, C, D, and E, then we have our triangle. Okay? So this is the only case that a triangle can work. And from what you see, A and C here are at the same height. This is also a descending triangle within this descending triangle. Okay? That's the only way we can have a triangle. But now the problem is this. Well, we supposedly finish here, but then we came one more low. We did one more low. So the fact that we did one more low can mean what? This is probably 1. We might get 2, 3, 4, and 5, which kind of brings us back to the main. Or maybe this is 1 and we get 2 and then we get 3, 4, and 5 for a triangle or something. But it's unlikely that we finished. The other thing that someone could consider is that 50 is done here, and then we're gonna see something like an A, B, and a C. Hold on. Like it would be an A, B, and a C. We're gonna go up for wave B, but you can understand it's very, very, very high for such a short sort of flat pattern, because you know what the assumption is here, that this is something like of an A, B, and C here, right? But what else we could do is assume this as wave A. Then we might get something like of a wave B. Yeah, it's going to be bigger. And then we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for C. And this is where our B is going to end. This is something that is more likely because, as I said before, this belongs to a smaller degree time frame. Now, there is a variation, guys. I have been looking, and you probably know that one as well, because I showed you last time that wave A has finished here, and we are due wave B, which means wave A is done. Wave Y either finished here or is going to finish lower. It doesn't matter. It's just that so that other, and then we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to go closer to the previous wave A first, of course, and then continue to the downside for one more leg to the downside. And this is a valid case. Why? And what levels we should be looking in that particular case, because well, pretty much 138 is the one to watch, and we've just done it exactly spot on. That's the 138. It makes this either an expanding or a running flat. If it is an expanded flat, we're gonna break 62 very easily and head for the previous wave A, and we need to break that too. But if it's going to be a running flat, we can actually come up to 21K and then start falling again. Okay, keep that in mind as well. The other case was the ending diagonal, which means we have an A and a B. Yeah, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, A, B, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which means that we're very likely going to see a move to the upside as a correction to come and meet that descending triangle diagonal and then continue lower down, which also means, guys, that we have to have some limitations. If this is the low, we need to ensure that wave 4 is not bigger than wave 2. So we cannot go above 20 to 25 in this particular case, not above 20 to 25. We actually prefer to stay kind of diagonal. You know, here, you know, fourth could be around that level, and then the fifth, you know, down all the way to this sort of rejection, perhaps with a or throw over or throw under, if you may. Then the other case is the double zigzag, which is a W, and we are probably doing an X as an ABC here, a flat again, and we're going to get Y, which means we're going to get an ABC here, and we're going to probably go to 7K faster to my initial main count, or an alternative of this zigzag, that we are going to have a W and X, and then wave we have an ABC here, and it's going to be 1, 2, we're going to get a 3 and a 4 and a 5, and it's going to be an ending diagonal. Actually, as I'm looking at it, maybe even an open diagonal, which is not likely what I want to see. Well, actually, no. We are just barely making it for a contracting diagonal. So it would be something like this. And we need to get the fourth and then the fifth. Let me just add those in here. And equally, our wave 2 would have to be bigger than our wave 4, which means that gives us a limit to the upside, which comes at 1820, which makes this barely an ending diagonal and hard to assume as an ending diagonal. So what I will do, because we need the violation of the first wave and it cannot happen, what I will do instead is I will actually make that a 3 and a 4 and a 5, which is a bit, well, similar to what we did in the main. Why we don't think that's the case? Because that cannot really, as it looks for now, at least proportionally speaking, belong to the same degree as the wave 2, which comes back to that being a 3, 4, and a 5, and ending much lower. Now, in the shorter term, guys, let me just go to the short term and auto this and then come back to that so we can see fully what's happening. After successfully calling the running flat here and then decline, we actually coming off again with a 5-wave move to the downside, right? Now, as you remember, I just said that there might be a triangle and then we finished here, but it's unlikely that it belongs in the same structure, so I don't think that's the case. So we'll have to go with 1, and that, my friends, has to be an ABC for wave 2 again and continue down in 3, 4, and 5, which means we'll have again another flat. And because we have broken below the 105 of wave A, retracement, inverse retracement. Where's the 105? There we go. You see, that's at 1559. That means we are in an irregular flat. guys. Okay, so we can either get an expanded or a running flat. Now we got a running flat here, so maybe this is going to be the expanded variation, which means our wave 2 is going to go above the 1825 or so. Okay, depending on how we're going to see that, you know, playing out. But then, as you can see, I have this as an ABC, and that is mainly due to the structure internally, guys, because when we measure this thing, we have something of a 5-wave move to the downside with a third extension, which makes it an A wave, not an ABC. Otherwise, we'll have to have an A, B, and a C, which is still possible. It just, you know, it's just like, it would be like a something like this, very extended wave C. And the other thing I don't quite like too much is that, proportionally speaking, you know, if this is W, you know, we would prefer to see like an equally length Y. But then the debate is that time wise, W was done and is done already pretty much. Let me show you. Look, W from A to W, you get like 86 bars here, and from X to A you get like 89 bars. So we can assume that in one case at least this is done. But then if you look at W and X and we compare to what do we expect to see, as in the extension down to wave 1 to the extension of, you know, then, you know, we're looking at 1471 as a potential low here. So as you can understand, you know, it's a bit of a 50-50 situation here on whether this is an ABC with beat wave done. For example, we might see something like this and then go up on 2 and then 3, 4, and 5. Or if we end it indeed, then probably we're going to continue higher. That's going to be 2, then 3, 4, and 5. And from there, we're going to go down. Okay, which means wave B is finished here. Okay, this is also the short term, guys. What levels to watch? Well, if we finished here, one thing to pay attention would be the 62. This is where a running flat is technically in, and we should look for shorts if there is other indicators or things pointing to that opportunity, of course. Now, on a different note, this is 1 and 2 supposedly, or A and B, who knows. So 1640, 1660 are levels we need to pay attention to. Okay, and in case we continue down, then the 1470, as I said before, but also with an assumption that we are going to finish this move to the upside at 1618 around 1640, then we'll look at a level again below the 15K. So this is it, guys, pretty much. Okay, are there other variations here? Yes. Doesn't necessarily need to be that, but a W, X, and Y very likely in either case. You might ask, what if wave 2 is done here? I will tell you it's very unlikely. This is very hard to be seen as an impulse to the downside or any sort of motive wave. This is a double zigzag, guys. Even like a double 3, it doesn't matter. It's very hard for that to give us a downside continuation. Okay, if it does, it will be one of those times that I get surprised again. Now, going to Ethereum, things are not much different with Ethereum, especially in the longer term if we look at it, and we are going to look at it. But in the short term, they are a bit. The scenarios that we're looking to cover here, guys, the alternatives or the variations, you just assume pretty much the same thing for BTC and for Ethereum. Now, one thing I do need to make a mention of is that, you know, this obviously there is no 3 and 4 here. The silly sort of count what we looked as an alternative. So this has to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we get 4 and 5. Okay, so i.e., let me just do it for you. Okay, we have to see that. That's the idea. On a different note, the other thing I really need to mention is that if this is 1 and 2 and 3, and this is 4, we're going for the 5th. But, however, or but, yeah, I cannot say both, right? Coming down to 961 is going to, for a moment, maybe even not for a moment, depends on how we go down, and down to 645, we're going to still have to deal with potential flat in wave 4. But instead of 4, I would probably want to come and say most likely to be A and then B, because proportionally speaking, it doesn't fit to be part of wave 4, because that would be wave 4 and that would be wave 2, right? But then if we did do that, and that would be assumed to be a 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 5, the fourth wouldn't match this structure proportionally. So the only thing that makes sense, and that is why it's the main, is 1, 2, 3, 4 finished, and we're going to go for the fifth down. One more low. Levels. Well, if fourth is done, look at this 700 cluster, right? 700 is a cluster. Then below that, we go at 520, guys, and then 360 or so. So these three levels are very important, okay? I don't want to call 365, but 527, it's a likely case. But also what else we can do, it's measure the measured move, which is the 100% of wave 4, brings us at 385 again. Oh, I've already done that. Yeah, excusez-moi. It was just, I had in mind that I used it for the flat. But you know, guys, these levels are very important. Now, because we have finished wave 1 and 2, the assumption again is that, if I can grab that, the assumption is again that we're going to do 1618 for the third. And look at this, where it comes at 705. So fortunately or unfortunately, 705, it's a much more likely target, okay, than, well, obviously the one before, the one below, but also, guys, the 500 sort of range also comes in, okay? It depends on where the third is going to finish. Now, let's not also forget what we have wave 1 and wave 2 either finished, or we're going to get something like similar to BTC, which brings us down to the 600 below the 700 again. So we have to pay attention to that stuff. But for now, that's what I have for you. And we're going to go in the short term so that I can show you what is the difference here. Now, look, very similar case when we look at BTC and Ethereum. You got the 1 and the 2 though here for the base channel in the intermediate degree. That gave us a false break here, okay? It gave us like the 100% correction to assume that we might have also a flat here, as well as another rejection at the base channel, okay? So you can understand that this base channel becomes quite important, but it's now the, well, you cannot say there is a first attempt here because it didn't happen, we didn't know we had it. But here, 1 and 2. And the move to the upside didn't go above 50% to say that sentiment is changing. So on the medium term as well, we are bearish. Now, looks like 1 A and B, and we're going to get wave C, okay? And we are again between this sort of thing here that, you know, wave B might have finished. We're going to go up for C and then down, or wave B is going to be an ending diagonal, a flat, well, looks like an expanded variation, and then we're going to do one more wave down. Or maybe even it finished already, who knows, okay? Maybe it's going to be an expand, so it is an expanded flat already, actually, if you consider this as an ABC. Now, levels to watch, because if we do go lower for the wave C that I am suggesting here, we should be looking for even prices below the 1K. Okay, so that's going to be the target zone. The thing is that we haven't broken below 105 in this particular case so far. We have come like to the 100%, which means we are still in a regular flat scenario. And regular flats usually go and meet the beginning of the descending move. In this case, for example, do the 1350. And it's more likely to do the 1250 than have a truncation. Running flats can have truncations more often than regular flats have truncations. Okay, so idea is either we're done or not. The thing is that in here you got the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and kind of the 5. You know, and someone might say, well, look, this is a perfect ending diagonal here, but unfortunately it isn't. Because I thought about this, I thought about A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But guys, unfortunately, Wave 4 is bigger than wave 2, so it breaks the rules. There cannot be an ending diagonal here. So the only way we can see this is as an ABC, if there is a B. Otherwise, it's going to have to be an ugly A, and then B, and the C, and which means we ended and we could continue higher. So we have to keep an eye on all of those levels. First, we take the swing high over here and we go all the way down. We look at the 50. Once we break 50, maybe short term, we're going to be a little bit bullish with 1170, 1200 in focus. Otherwise, or then perhaps start looking for clusters that come from all the way up to the low. And that means something like this. And one of the clusters actually comes to the previous swing at X around 1230, 1240. But also we do have an important level at 1172. Okay, so I think I've already mentioned quite a few levels and few scenarios to play out. So I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to join Discord. It's for free and you get a free video on a daily basis anyway. But if you want up-to-date videos, you can also join. Reach out to me if you're looking for some support in general. And I hope this video has been helpful. Don't forget, it's for educational purposes, not investment advice. Take care, and I will see you again in a few days.